Everybody, welcome back to the channel. And so here we go with another discussion video. It's been a little while since I made one of these actually, but this is a message to all of you wildlife documentarians out there. And as you know, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I am a wildlife documentarian. One of my favorite things to film and photograph and be a part of is nature and animals and all that sort of stuff. But one thing I've noticed, so I sort of started, of course I always loved movies and was interested in filmmaking and documentaries and all that for a long time, since I was a kid. But when I first sort of started delving into this whole thing in my late teens, early 20s, I started in photography, and I always wanted to get into filming, so I gradually worked into doing more filming, which is mainly what I do now. Very recently, I've actually been delving back into photography a little bit, more so than I have been in the past few years, as filming's always been sort of my thing. But I just have a message, because I will say this particularly for photographers. People that film are still like this, but they tend to be a little bit not exude these traits as much as the photographers do. And again, I'm talking strictly about wildlife, nature, photography. I'm not talking about any people that do, portraits and family photos and weddings and all that kind of stuff. I don't really know tons about that. My experience with it is very minimal, and I don't really know many people that are involved in that whole world there. So I'm talking strictly about the animals and wildlife type stuff. Is one thing that, even though I'm one of these people that does this and enjoys it, one of the things that's always bothered me about the community is that, and I'm not trying to be insensitive by saying this, but the wildlife photography world is full of introverts, and that makes sense. I totally get that. That makes total sense. But it's also full of a lot of spiritual people too, and meditators and all that kind of stuff, which I fall into that bracket too, believe it or not, and I get it. I understand it. It's all good. But they're very anti-social. You can't, if you run into them, even if you're doing the same thing and you're like a fellow photographer or a filmmaker or anything like that, and you run into them, they aren't, it's like they're always sort of trying to get away from you. They act like you're intruding on their spiritual moment or on their meditative experience, or on their like you're some sort of a negative block to their to their connection to nature or something like that. And it's very introverted people that don't want to talk to anybody, and they sort of act like if you're friendly to them, or you spark up a conversation, or you just if you run into them and you become involved in the conversation with them because you're a fellow person that does the same thing, it's like they're not into that. It's like they're very secretive. Like I said, they just have this aura about them that's very introverted and very and not just introverted like this, like they're naturally that way. Like they just have this sort of attitude about them, like you're intrusive on their vibe or something. And again, not all are like this, and and not to pat myself on the back or anything. Somebody could totally disagree with what I'm saying, so this isn't like some look at me, I'm so great. But I feel like I do a pretty damn good job of not being like that, and there are some other ones that are more outgoing in that too. But I don't think that it's right to... I mean, people can do whatever they want, but I don't think it's necessarily right to have that sort of attitude about what you're doing. Especially, you know, we all know the environment needs to be looked after. It needs to be protected. We all need to put our best foot forward as far as being kind to nature and preserving it as best we can and doing the right things within it. And, you know, we need to have respect for the wildlife and the nature and animals that are around us. And also, it's something that, you know, like usually it starts with, you know, you're a kid, you're watching these documentaries, you know, you got your David Attenboroughs and all these different people like that are doing this really cool stuff out, exploring and adventuring around and being a part of nature and all that. And it's very inspiring. It makes you want to go out and do stuff like that. It makes you interested in animals. It makes you intrigued by nature. And it's inspiring, right? And I think that's what we need. We need to inspire people to be more respectful and to be educated if they, you know, are ignorant to certain things. And we need to also inspire other people in general and the next generations below us and things like that to, you know, to basically show that this is a really cool, fun, adventurous, and awesome thing to do and be a part of. And, you know, you should be actively engaging with the world and with the people around you. I don't care what personality type you are or how you would prefer to have it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I prefer to not run into somebody else too. And a lot of times I don't, because I go quite far into the forest. But there are some places, like the place I'm in now, generally where I film a lot of my discussion videos, where I'm far enough away that it's not likely that somebody's gonna come walking up beside me. But there is a mainstream hiking trail just down that way a bit, so there are people around and one could find their way here if they went off trail a little bit. But, you know, for the most part, I'm pretty good at finding spots, even in a place like this where not many people do end up showing up. And a lot of the other places I go to are way far off in the middle of nowhere, so it's very unlikely to run into anybody. And that's 9 times out of 10, that's what I'd prefer. That's what I'm going out there to do, and that's what I want. So I sort of, and I'm not an introverted person. I'm actually a very extroverted person when I'm in public or when I'm around and talking to people and that. But the introverted side of me sort of comes out, and I enjoy it and I cultivate it when I am out in the woods doing nature documentation. But, you know, if I did run into somebody, and especially if it was somebody that was interested or seemed stoked on what I was doing, I'm gonna conduct myself out of that sort of state and put my best foot forward at communicating with them and including them, and not blatantly acting like they're intrusive to my life and my vibe and my spiritual outlet or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't know, pardon the language. You know, and I'm gonna, you know, express how I'm gonna try to inspire this person to either try it out for themselves, maybe get into it, maybe pass the word along to other people that they know that could be into it, or to at the very least walk away with a bit more of an education, you know, a bit more knowledge about some things, and just overall engage with it, present it as something that's advertisable to do. I mean, a lot of these people that I run into, it's like, you know, I mean, I love doing it, so nothing would ever fully get between me and that. But if you were new to it, or you were like on the fence and not quite sure if you were that into it or not, the attitudes of these people might just get you to say, forget it, this isn't for me, I don't fit into this group, obviously. I'm not qualified, or I'm intrusive to them. You know, it almost gives you the same vibe as if you showed up to a party or a house, or you went to visit a friend, and they just blatantly acted like you were just you know, not the right time, man. Like, you know, we don't want you here right now, kind of a thing. Which, whatever, that happens in life sometimes, and you got to deal with it. But I think there's certain things, if it's in your own house, whatever, that's fine. That's your house, that's your choice. But when you're out in the world, even if you're where there's not many people, and even if you're hoping to not see many people, or any for that matter, if you do, and I'm not saying to go up to them first, but if they come up to you, or they start a conversation with you, or they ask you something, you should actively engage in, you know, advertising and representing what it is you do that you think is worthy, and that you should be hoping that other people are inspired to do as well. So that's all I got to say to something that was rolling around on my mind, and something I've wanted to talk about for a while, actually, because I've been sort of involved in this whole thing for a long time. Like I said, since my late teens, early 20s, and also just interested in it before I even started doing it myself. So I'm just being a bit of, it's a message, this is particularly for people that do this, so if you're a wildlife documentarian, a photographer, whatever, this is just a message for you, something that I'm putting out there for you to keep in mind, at least. And if you're not, and then I don't know, maybe there's some points in there that could be utilized in other interests in life as well. And if you're somebody who's interested in this sort of thing, but has been sort of deterred because you're sort of on the fence and you think you like it, but you've been deterred by the negative attitudes and just negative insinuations towards you from some of the heavily introverted people that are involved in it, then this is just a bit of encouragement to just fuck all that, fuck them, get out there, go for it. It's a great time. It's a fun thing to do. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you very much.